You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
All right, welcome back. This is yet another episode of 91 Reasons, and we're going to continue our strange journey through the outer fringes of the internet to the dark side where only the strangest of the strange inhabit. Of course, we all live there, so it's not a strange place to us. But it is a strange outpost. I can see a sign coming up. It says, now entering Homestuck. Well, it's episode 2 of our Homestuck series as we delve into the massive online internet webcomic Andrew Hussey's Homestuck. Last episode, we talked about a little bit of what Homestuck is, a lot about what the Homestuck fandom is, and then what it means personally to me and my family. And now I should say that my two co-hosts, who you're going to meet in a second, they were very hesitant to come on the show. They didn't think they'd have a lot to say. And you can tell from the episode because it starts out where they're pretty far from the microphone, and by the end, they're right up on the microphone. They have a lot to say. And if you can hear this, what they did after the show was they sat down and they wrote all this stuff they forgot to mention. So we have tons more Homestuck material. We're so glad that you're listening. We have listeners all over the world because of this strange Homestuck phenomenon. I am the voice. I am Jeff Tucker. This is 91 Reasons. I am joined by my co-host. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Luke. Hi, I'm Austin Tucker.
You know them from last episode. They have a lot to say about Homestuck. And last episode, I interviewed them to sort of draw out what I wanted where I wanted the show to go. And we'll probably see some of that this time. But I know that they have a much more clear idea of what the show is and what they've brought to it. So if you're just joining us, who wants to step up and tell us real quick, like what Homestuck is? What is it? We know it's a webcomic, but we never really I asked you last time what the plot was, and you said it was a young man in his house who gets a video game. And I don't think we progressed any farther than that on the plot. And something that's 9,000 plus pages, you need to tell me what it's about. So, real quick, a guy gets a video game. Is it like a gift or a birthday gift?
It arrives in the mail, and it's 500 pages before he gets the mail, and then another 500 for him to play the game. And do you want just a quick overview of everything, or just a setup?
No, see, you're going back into that. This is how many pages before he does
just
this.
An overall setup.
No, the thrust of it is he gets a video game.
Yes, he gets a video game.
Okay, that could be the plot of Tron. What is the plot?
The video game is set up in such a way that it requires multiple players to connect to each other. So, the first whole act of the story, well, I say act, it's section, which is multiple acts, is all of his friends getting on the game. They all do their own little adventure to start up the game. Then once the game's on, it cuts to an alien planet, where it shows 12 more alien kids playing the game, and they all have a little adventure to play theirs.
Now, these are the trolls.
The trolls.
Now, how many pages in are we for this to happen?
They appear on page
4,800, I want to say.
Yeah, late 4,000s.
What on earth can happen? And I know that, again, I'm already derailing what you're saying, so don't ignore that. So the kids play the game, a multiplayer game, and then we cut to aliens playing the same game.
Yes.
Boy, it must.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't get Xbox and PlayStation to play the same game, and they're doing it across galaxies. This is like the plot of Independence Day.
Across universes. It's a very specific thing, is they're in different universes. Because when the trolls beat their game, you get the first glimpse of what the game's about. Which is that when you complete it, you create a universe. You become gods of your own universe. The aliens beat their game and create humankind.
Okay, so you're talking about the creation of. So did they get that? They obviously got their game first.
A few million years before.
So you're saying they got the video game, played it, and managed to use whatever the DLC was on that game to create human life, which then played the same game.
Yes.
Oh, my head hurts.
He wrote it as a creationism myth of how life could have started. And this is, in Hussey's mind, every universe plays a video game to create the next. And
Okay, so what happens after that?
after that, the kids fail their game. To change up the plot, the kids actually lose their game. So what they do is they hit the reset button, and they go back to the start. Only now they've been swapped with their parents, so they're born at different times through time travel shenanigans. They've been swapped. So it's 4 new kids playing the game that were the parents of the kids before them. And
Okay, all right. I hate to say it, but I'm following along.
and we're now in the 4th section of Homestuck: kids, aliens, new kids. We're now entering the middle of the 4th section, where all the characters have finally come together and are trying to play the same game now. It's one giant game now they're trying to beat.
According to Hussey, it's the expansion pack for
Yeah,
the
it's
game.
the expansion pack. We beat the first 3 discs, and now we're in the expansion pack.
Okay, so then they're playing. How is that the plot? Like, what could happen after that? But okay, go ahead.
What do you mean? That's where we're at. We don't know what happens after that.
So that's where and that takes how many pages to get to?
9,000 before the characters even meet each other in person.
Oh my God, this sounds like work.
The entire comic's over internet chat logs.
Yeah, Pesto Chum. It's sort of like
Yeah.
AOL.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that there's very few pictures? Is it like Zork, where it's like a text adventure?
Well, the entire thing's supposed to spoof text adventures, yes.
Oh, see, I never picked up on that.
Yeah.
I'm imagining like a comic book with fully
There's-
illustrated pages.
No, there's a fully illustrated picture, and sometimes it's a GIF or a movie. And then there's you click a button to show Pesterlog, and it's just this giant wall of text. Which is why it takes so long to read.
Okay, I just imagine like in the episode 17, how do you get the wizard's key?
But it's said he's lost it now because of meta shenanigans. But the original premise is every page isn't a click for next page. It's a command that the reader inserted, because it was all written in tune with the readers. The first ever update was John, enter name, and then there was a little box where you could type a name to enter. And then it was John Egbert and like that. And every page is John and then a command, or Rose and then a command.
Okay, so in a nutshell, aliens play a video game that allows them to create life. They create us, human life. We evolve eventually to play the same game, and then we and the aliens, who are now millions of years old, are playing the same game, and that's where we're at.
Yes.
Did I just get it in a nutshell?
Pretty much. But circumstantial simultaneous events, it kind of messes that all up. Because technically the trolls and the kids play this game at the same exact moment in space-time.
The same time as we
Yes.
play it.
Because paradox space, which is where all the universes are, the universes are in a physical space.
Okay.
Time and space are flipped there and don't make sense. So things can happen at the same time and yet before and after each other.
How can things happen? Okay. Who's controlling that, though? Because, like, you guys also watch Adventure Time, and what's the name of the guy who's in charge
Prismo.
of... Prismo is in charge of all that.
There's a few different layers depending on how meta you want to get on who's in control. In the story sense, it's the horror terrors, which are these Cthulhu-like tentacle monsters that float around in the paradox space between the universes. It's just void and monsters. But if you want to get more meta than that, then there's AH, which is Andrew Hussey, and he's actually running around writing the comic while the characters themselves are messing with him. And then now we're at the point where Caliborn, one of the characters, has hijacked the comic from Hussey and is now writing the comic himself.
So do you ever foresee Homestuck becoming anything other than what it is? It can't be a movie or a cartoon. Like, you've got... hardback copies of Homestuck.
The book, yes.
So I've never looked at it. Is it just pages of chat?
It's It's a lot of pages of chat. It's only the first 3 acts so far, which aren't too text heavy, so they work out good. But it does have commentary by Hussey where he makes fun of it a lot. The books are almost a joke. Because there's a page where John messes up his inventory system, his in-game inventory system, and a little glass shard flies across the room. So it's like a page of all these little frames of a little piece of glass flying. And the Hussey's comment is like, you have to really squint to even see a difference in each panel here. But there's a little speck of glass flying. And it doesn't translate well in the book.
Right. So they did publish a book because why? Shing,
Money.
of course. That's why we do anything, right? Okay, so it exists as a webcomic with the plot we just went over.
Yeah.
It exists as a hardback series of books. How many are they up to?
They're up to 3 when the last one came out last November. Word is his Rachel, his wife or love or something, finished books 4 and 5 as of like February and March, but he hasn't gotten around to write commentary for it yet.
And it's only worth publishing with commentary.
Yeah, because that's the only new content. Everything else is just the comic in a really bad form.
Next is actually the intermission.
The intermission, yeah. Books
Yeah.
4 and 5 is intermission and Act 4.
Yeah.
Well, what is intermission? Is it the
It's-
trolls singing "Let's all go to the lobby"?
No. In the Homestuck universe, Dave Strider turns on his computer and goes to the Homestuck website. Only it can't be Homestuck. He can't go on and read Homestuck. So in their universe, Andrew Hussey wrote a comic called The Midnight Crew. So the intermission of Homestuck is you get to read a section of The Midnight Crew.
Okay, and who are the Midnight Crew?
They're a gang. They start out as being a gang of mobsters fighting the Felt, which is a billiard-based other gang of mobsters, led by Lord English.
They're themed after playing cards.
And the Midnight Crew's playing cards. Hearts Boxcar, Diamonds Droog, Spade Slick, and Jack Noir. No.
Club's Deuce.
Club's Deuce. I listed Jack twice.
And did the name come from the old song?
The name came from Mayanaka's old webcomic. He never got into comic form. It was just an idea he threw around to Hussey. And eventually Hussey did commissions for Prom Sleuth, his old webcomic. So this guy named Mayanaka paid Hussey $20 and said, do a little crossover between my characters and yours. And now Hussey's just fully adopted his characters as his own, because Mayanaka never started his own thing.
But how does the turn of the century 1915, 1920 song figure in?
Hussey first made fun of where the Midnight Crew name came from by writing a little comic where the characters go on Google and search the Midnight Crew. And since this was before Homestuck, all he gets is some African Christian band.
It's an African jazz band.
African jazz Christian band. So they all get out jiggery-doos and start playing music.
So is there actually still a band called the Midnight Crew?
We don't know. They've never been important. But because what they were actually based off of, Mayanaka actually based them off, was a song called The Midnight Crew that showed up. So it was his story.
And it's a really old song, right?
1912.
1909.
And it's on a
something like that.
real thick record on YouTube, right?
Yeah, one guy got the record on YouTube that they've ripped for the comic, and now has been restyled to all these different genres and remakes.
You want to sing it for us, Austin?
I think.
Come on.
I'm a member of the Midnight Crew. I'm a night owl and a wise bird too. I'm with the milk in the morning, singing the same old song. Wise with the moon, go to bed with the sun. Early to bed and you miss all the fun. Bring your wife and trouble, it'll never trouble you. Make her a member of the Midnight Crew.
But it's all done like the Haunted Mansion, like,
Yeah.
I'm a member of the Midnight Crew. Like, that's the style, right?
The post-punk one is better by Bowman.
The post-punk one, yeah. Okay, so that's the intermission.
That's the intermission, which is 900 pages.
Intermission, that was 300.
It's not that long, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's only a couple hundred,
It's
three
like
or
300 to
400.
somewhere between there.
It's only a couple hundred.
Yeah, that's
That-
relatively short.
Fight Club is only a couple hundred pages. Look at all he told in that.
But there's no internet
But
text logs in it.
The intermission a lot of people skip it. That's the ongoing joke. People skip the intermission because it's not important. And then later on, it's the most important thing in the comic.
Well, yeah, that's the same way where if you're reading The Watchmen for the first time,
Yeah.
you skip all that supplement materials at the end of each issue, and at the end you're like, oh man, I wish there was. Oh, there is more. There is more. If I go back and read Under the Hood over and over again, right? And
Yeah.
the artist is missing who drew the pirate comics, and like it all. It seems superfluous, but it actually is an integral part of the story.
Yes. It's not for another 1,000 pages or so where the characters show up in the real comic, and they're actually part of the Homestuck canon. The game, when you turn it on, has NPCs. So there's little reptiles that are the generic citizens, and then there's these 2 moons that each have carapacians, which are these hard-shelled, generic video game NPCs. A gimmick with the game is every time you play, a random NPC will get teleported back to Earth and become your exile, where they get a little computer and can talk to you. And that's where the commands come from canonically, not from the readers, but from the exiles watching the characters. The trolls, their exiles are the Midnight Crew. The Midnight Crew defeat the Fel and get into the Fel's secret vault to get the treasure, which is just a computer that allows you to talk to the trolls.
So they're able to find basically, and I'll use a movie reference because that's what I do. They find the Holy Grail because
Yeah.
Belloc says it's a radio for talking to God, and if the trolls are the ones that created Earth and all the people, then they're God.
They're God, yeah.
They're the gods of creation.
Karkat's God. The first thing he says in the comic is, "I am your God speaking to you." And then John's just like, "Hi, Karkat." Because Karkat does this lame thing. He talks backwards. He calls... The trolls have the ability that since it's all already happened, they can talk to the kids at any point on their timeline. So he talks to John right before they complete the game, and then works backwards. So John's already heard of Karkat at the beginning, but Karkat doesn't hear of John till the end. So Karkat's first conversation with John is John's first conversation with Karkat, and vice versa.
So what you're saying is that Homestuck is for intelligent people.
Yeah, it's so hard to make sense of it all.
But you grasp it. Because
Yeah.
it seems to me to be very, almost overly complicated.
Yeah.
In that it's not a linear story. It keeps folding back on itself. And instead of being just a one-time gimmick that seems to be like a recurring theme, like every 3 or 4 steps forward you take, Hussey then takes the comic back 2 or 3 steps.
Yeah, it's constantly going in on itself, and the entire comic is based on references to itself. You got to track every line of dialogue to know what's going on, because everything's said multiple times. And with both time travel and canon travel now, it just keeps reliving some of the same moments, but from different things happening and going wrong.
There's also a lot of scenes we don't get to see that are implied.
Yeah, there's a lot of implied scenes in the dialogue.
Like
a lot of people just look at the art, and you can get the basic aspects of the comic just by looking at the panels. But then the chat implies a lot more scenes. Like there'll be one line of dialogue that explains 1,000 pages of theories.
Like, you don't get to know the Midnight Crew's full story of how they got exiled.
The Midnight Crew's never given an exact origin. You have to piece it together from all the different times they're shown.
Well, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. Now, you've got a list here. Let's just pick a couple
Pick
things.
the weirdest thing you see.
Well, the weirdest thing I see, obviously, is for some reason, Andrew Hussey has this bizarre fascination and fixation on Rufio from the movie Hook, as played by Dante Basco.
Yes.
Well, okay, before we get to the fact that Basco has inserted himself into the fandom,
Yes.
where does this come from?
It comes from a scene in Homestuck where a lot of people were dying, and it was just revealed that if you kiss a dead body, the dead body will come back to life in another world, and somewhere else they'll wake up. So they corpse smooch. All these different characters canonly.
Wait. Corpse smooch?
Corpse smooch.
That's illegal in just about every state.
And then they do the 3 times corpse smooch combo. But then to top it off, to complete their attack, they do a 4 times corpse smooch combo, which requires cutting to Andrew Hussey making out with Rufio after he dies in Hook.
Oh my God! I don't understand. So, for some reason, the comic transports Hussey to the world, Neverland, the world of Hook, where Rufio has just died at the hands of Captain Hook, and then he makes out with him and brings him back to life in the Homestuck universe.
No, that's not quite, because it's never explained in the comic, but on Hussey's Formspring. Formspring is a website where you can ask celebrities questions. No one uses it anymore. He used to have one. Someone asked him what was up with that scene. He explained it. He said that was a flashback to him playing his own session. At some point, we don't know when, A.H., the self-insert of Andrew Hussey, played his own game of Suburb. And his planet, instead of having reptiles as his generic NPCs, he had the entire movie of Hook replicated with characters of representing all the characters in the movie.
Now, when was this? When was this published?
This was
2011?
early 2011, I'd say.
Because it's eerily like Ready Player One.
Yeah,
Where
it would have been around the same time.
Because in Ready Player One, the virtual world Oasis contains duplicates of every movie setting around, from Goonies to War Games to Hook would have been at the tail end of Hook being 91 would have been the tail end of the references in Ready Player One. But it seems like the same kind of idea.
Yeah, he had to reenact the entire movie in order to complete his version of Suburb. Every player's land gets to their own little mini quest.
Well, that sounds just like Ready Player
His was
One.
the flick sync.
Yeah,
Yes.
it sounds just like it.
And he differed from the movie though, because when Rufio dies, he tries to make out with him to bring him back. But Rufio's not real. He's just an NPC in the game, so it doesn't work.
Well, can you imagine like you're watching Hook, and instead of like a dignified death, one of the Lost Boys breaks from the crowd and just starts macking out with the corpse of Rufio? Like, that's really weird.
His dream self might wake up on Durst.
Well, okay. So this is where the scene comes from. But do you know, like, why is Andrew Hussey so obsessed with Rufio?
There's never been a clear thing. I've dug through archives, and I can take back almost every reference in the comic to some old blog post of his or some little adventure he had. And he's just obsessed with Hook. The only old reference of Hook I could find is in Wizardy Herbert, which is an unfinished novel of his that's available on the internet. And in it, he mentions the VHS Hook is laying around. It's never really plot important, it just happens to be there. And that's the only mention of it. Hussey just puts Hook in everything, for no reason.
But he's of the age where Hook would have come out during his formative years, and he probably was one of those kids who got the videotape as a gift and watched it again and again and again. I mean, you have those movies,
Yeah.
I have those movies, Austin has those movies, where it just becomes like part of the fabric of who you are because you've watched it so many times. Like, it's not letting any cats out of the bag to say mine was Back to the Future, because that's all I talked about last episode.
Back to the Future is this big thing. This is Hook we're talking about. This
Hook.
random Peter Pan movie.
Yeah, but see, you guys are missing that when Hook came out, it was a pretty big deal because it was Robin Williams, who had just been nominated for an Oscar for Dead Poets Society, Julia Roberts, who was one of the biggest movie stars on the planet at the time, Steven Spielberg, Dustin Hoffman, Bob Hoskins, and it was Sony's massive Christmas release that was supposed to make $1 gazillion. Now, it didn't do very well at the box office, but you guys have discovered it because of Homestuck. And we've watched it, and I enjoy, because I watch almost any movie. It does have some pretty bad editing moments, but it's an interesting story about what would happen if Peter Pan grew up and didn't remember that he was Peter Pan. Mm-hmm. But see, I was older than I'm assuming what Hussey was, so I never identified with the Lost Boys or Rufio as like a hero. But apparently, like, he really got fixated on this thing.
Yeah. And so then what happened next was Dante Basco started a Tumblr, which is just, he uses it, it's linked up to his Instagram, so he just takes pictures of his new sneakers and what videos on YouTube he's filming. And then people started messaging him, like, hey man, you're in this comic. You gotta read this weird little comic. You're in it. He makes out with you or something. So Hussey got wind that Dante Basco was going to start trying to read the comic. So he put a little message at the top of MSPA. It says, at the top, news, forums, merchandise, hello, Dante. And how long did it take him to get to the part? Like about a year for Dante Basco to read the 5,000 pages required till he shows up in the comic. And then just recently, a couple months ago, Dante Basco finally got to the part that came out 2.5 years ago, which is, at one point, there's a walk-around video game where you have to talk to all these new trolls. It's a long story. There's 12 new trolls, and they're all parodies of different parts of Tumblr. There's a feminism girl and a social justice guy and this greaser guy and an actual representation of Dante Basco that's just him. It's just Dante Basco standing there.
Just Dante Basco.
Yeah, he's dressed up as Rufio, and he has wings because that has to make sense in the Homestuck canon, but it's Dante Basco. Hussey studied Dante Basco's Tumblr and Twitter and copied his text style and how he types.
How he talks, it's so weird.
It's how he talks. He just, it's really eerie. And then there's a secret, if you do a certain thing in the game, Hussey will show up in the game, and he'll give you commentary on what he thinks of the characters. And there's this long secret love letter to Dante Basco about thank you for being here for this adventure and letting me use you in the comic and all this stuff. He's sorry for getting Dante wrapped up in all these crazy kids.
That's so bizarre. Now, you showed me a Dante Basco music video called
Geekin' Out.
Geekin' Out, where he's pursued by Homestuck dressed cosplayers. Like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, he's not only acknowledging it but embracing it. It seems.
Yes, he's entirely he's just one of the fandom people now. They'll do voice acting videos, or they did a song, "The 12 Trolls of Christmas," where they have all the trolls singing about Christmas, and they had Dante Basco's trolls version show up in the song, and he actually voiced it. They got him to be in the fan song.
He's the guy.
He's the guy because he's the absolute canon voice for that character.
He's the only character in the comic with a canon voice, because it's right.
Lord English, Yalda Barath.
Okay. Hussey, obviously.
Roxy, Hussey, Rose, a couple others.
Now, he has big horns or little horns?
The biggest horns in the entire
That's
comic.
what I thought. Now, tell me about like a really quick side trip. Wasn't there a guy whose horns were so big that a hotel threw him out? It was like, you can't be here anymore.
He couldn't get in anywhere. They say that the entire Homestuck fandom can be taken down to one thing: a competition of who can make the biggest summoner horns.
And the Summoner is basically Dante Basco's character in an alternate universe.
Now, these horns are so big, I've seen a couple of guys sporting them, that they have to have like a support string
Yeah,
to keep them aloft.
I've seen it where it takes 3 more cosplayers on each side to hold up the horns.
And this is something you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Now, tell me about the guy who got banned.
Which guy?
Wasn't there a guy like we last episode we talked about the guy with the gray Sharpie paint skin, but didn't some guy with horns get told, "Look, you got to go"?
Do you remember a story like that?
No, I
don't remember.
No, it sounds familiar.
There's been a
though.
lot of issues of hotels kicking him out for the gray paint.
Yeah. Well, you can understand that.
There's been issues of people getting in trouble at cons for loitering. They make really big groups to get in everyone's way. They've been known to throw buckets at each other. We've been known to push each other downstairs. There's been a lot of injuries involving stairs.
Okay, before we get to that, because I have a question about that. Austin dressed up as... Who did you dress up as last Kamikaze?
Last Kamikaze?
You had those big wooden horns on the side of your head?
Tavros Nitrum.
Your Tavros Nitrum horns, he made out of like this... He took apart this African wood sculpture thing and stuck them on the side of his head all painted up. I swear to God, they were so sharp. There were 2 or 3 times you got me. I had to wear glasses that day because I was out of contacts. But I turned to you and I said, if I hadn't been wearing my glasses, you would have blinded me.
Yeah.
They were so sharp and long. Now, those have been retired, thank goodness,
Yeah.
right?
They have
my
soft
God.
ones that we love fine now.
Yeah, those are the less prone to injury horns. So now, you said they like to throw people down the stairs. Now that's a reference to who? To what?
Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff.
All right, that brings us to our next topic. The Homestucks are banned from the convention for throwing people down the stairs because they're paying homage to Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, which is what?
In Homestuck, Dave Strider, one of the humans, has his own webcomic called Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, which is Hussey created as sort of a well for references. It's something for the characters to reference. Like the comic itself is referencing movies and video games. The characters in their dialogue can reference this really purposefully bad comic, which actually comes from a few months before Homestuck even started. He thought of this.
Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff.
Cool Bro and Stoner Lou.
Cool Bro and Stoner Lou.
They started in the Penny Arcade forums. Someone made this horrible generic webcomic about these two gamer guys, Cool Dude and Stoner Lou, is sitting around playing games, doing yo mama jokes and stuff.
It sounds like. Do you remember that show on G4? What was it called? Bit Monkeys or something?
Oh,
no,
they were little 8-bit.
Yeah, they were little 8-bit characters. Like it was a cartoon show.
Yeah. So
Code Monkeys.
Code Monkeys.
He was gonna submit this to Penny Arcade.
Yeah,
as a
he
real
was going to
comic.
submit this as a real comic on Penny Arcade. This was this guy's thing. He was going to be rich off this thing.
And what was it called?
Cool Dude and Stoner Lou.
Cool Dude and Stoner Lou.
And suddenly, Special Olympics, S_O, who we now know as Andrew Hussey, comes in, and he doesn't say anything. He just posts this comic he's made up called Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, which is... he drew a comic as bad as he possibly could, then ran it through filters to make it look almost unreadable. You can't even look at it right. And it's just this guy standing at the top of these stairs saying, I can't wait to sit around and be useless and play these games all day.
So
and then,
he's taking a piss on that guy's comic
yes,
directly.
Yes.
This is like when, you know that movie Team America?
Uh-huh.
The puppet movie by the South Park guys?
Yes.
Originally, they were going to do a puppet version of the movie The Day After Tomorrow, where, what's his name? Jake Gyllenhaal gets stuck in New York, frozen in ice, and his father has to come save him. And they were going to do just a shot-for-shot remake, a screw with that movie, using marionettes. And somebody pleaded with him, like, look, it's unreleasable because we're gonna be sued. So instead, they made Team America, which is a brilliant satire on action movies. So Hussey sits and just ruins this guy's life.
The guy responds to it saying, God, man, us_O, why, how high are you even right now? And Hussey just replies with a comic of Hella Jeff putting jelly on a hot guad. And Sweet Bro says, dang, man, how high are you even right now? He's just word for word messing with this guy.
So this is what happens when you screw with nerds. Like, they find really creative ways to screw back with you.
Now, Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff exists as a $100 coffee table book that is almost completely sold out now. It's actually only $50, but for $100, Hussey will write the name Dave somewhere in the book. He'll write the name Dave,
and that costs $50.
Yes, it's part of the experience.
Oh, great!
In the alternate version, once they reset the game, there's no more Dave to make a comic. So Dave grows up and makes Sweet Bro the movie with Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson. And in their world...
So it's like, I told you about those stairs,
yes.
bro. I warned you.
In that world, they don't make it past 2011 because one of the alien leaders breaks into their world and starts messing with things and takes over the world. So the entire Sweet Bro movie line actually has hidden propaganda against the alien empress, and it's all like the spy stuff hidden within this terrible movie.
Now you have embraced this art because we're talking about throwing people down the stairs, and the reference line is what?
I warned you about the stairs, bro.
Because somebody falls down the stairs.
I told you,
Yeah.
dog.
So you've embraced it, and you have this art on things. Like it's on your Christmas
It's on my
stocking.
Christmas stocking in the other room
and
right now.
It's really disturbingly bad.
Yes.
Like it's it's so bad that it's hard to duplicate because it's hard to draw that bad.
Yeah.
Badly.
He took a long hiatus and finally released a new one last Christmas and said, "Hope you guys like it." Took a year and a half to get it fine-tuned just the right amount of bad quality.
Well, deliberate bad is hard to do. It's hard to do.
We get about one a year now.
Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff.
Yeah.
And you enjoy that.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got it written very big on your sheet right here. Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff. Now, do they have adventures? Are they like Beavis and Butthead? Or
let's see.
I don't quite grasp other than you've told me they fall down the stairs and they're putting what on what?
Jelly on a hot god.
A hot god.
Which is misspelling of hot dog.
Great.
But we keep waiting for it to show up in the comic as a literal hot god, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, give it time.
Each one's its own little contained story. Sometimes they're 2 or 3 pages long. One time it's the 9-part Nancho party where they're trying to get nachos and it just ends up with him locked in the bathroom. One time they're at the grocery store and he starts screaming, "There's too many prices and values."
This just sounds tedious.
The manager comes over and the cops get involved. There's another where it says the Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff and the Chorley Broon. This is what the reference, with a really bad picture of Charlie Brown. And it has him with the football. And he goes to kick the football. He takes the football away. He flies up in the air and gets hit by a helicopter and dies. And he just gets chopped up.
Now, Austin's laughing. Like, you enjoy this?
Yeah, it's quality entertainment.
This is kind of like, this is one of those side things that the comic takes, right?
Yeah. But it's super important. There's
Yeah.
every comic.
Wait a minute. How is it super important?
Every comic, almost every Sweet Bro comic has allusions to Homestuck in it that if you can decode the Sweet Bro comics, you could have spoiled the end of Homestuck years ago. It's all hidden in there somewhere. Like there's one where Sweet Bro, he's losing at chess, so he takes a chess piece, walks the other room, flushes it down the toilet, and it says, checkmate, bro, lol." But the chess piece is a cylinder with a little round thing on the top, and that looks like one of the characters' houses, which right after that comic was released ends up falling down into the water, just like he knocked it into the toilet. So he would have spoiled that moment if you can figure out what the heck it meant.
Now, is that intentional, or are you just reading into it?
He makes up crazy stuff and then tries to try back into it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
He had a house and noticed, hey, the chess piece from that old comic looked like the house. I should have it fall down like it did in the comic.
So that he can have it referenced.
He's retroactive foreshadowing.
Retroactive foreshadowing.
And the big cliffhanger of Act 1 is John's house gets hit by a meteor. In the first few pages, he has an Armageddon poster on his wall. Halsey at that moment hadn't decided a meteor was going to hit. He just looked back at the poster and said, it'd be funny if I referenced Armageddon at the end here.
and then, of course, following the chain of references, you enjoy Armageddon because it's a reference
part of the
in
thing,
Homestuck.
yeah.
So Armageddon, which is a Michael Bay mega crapfest movie written by J.J. Abrams, is only one of the... now, the next film that's referenced is not a Michael Bay movie, but it's in the same ilk. It's directed by Simon West, and it continued the Nicolas Cage series of action movies that begins in The Rock, 1996, and then continues in Con Air, 1997. Con Air, one of the most incomprehensible action films ever made, where the cast themselves admitted during the making of it they didn't have a script. They were just filming scenes and hoping in the editing bay that something would happen. Now, that being said, Con Air is actually a very stupidly entertaining movie. But for some reason, this is yet another film that Andrew Hussey is obsessed with. Now, he's obsessed with Con Air to a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Even with Dante Basco being as important as he is, Con Air is the single most important referenced source in the comic. That or Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I would get Wizard of Oz, because a lot of films
Everything
reference
plays off
Wizard of
Wizard of
Oz,
Oz.
yes. But Con Air?
Con Air.
Con Air.
It's first...
Cameron Poe.
It's there since Act 1. One of the first things you see in the comic is John's wall with a poster of Con Air. because it's one of his favorite movies. And then Dave gets him a present for his birthday, because it's John's birthday, and he gets him the actual the actual prop bunny from the movie.
The one where he goes, put the bunny back in the box.
Yes.
And then when he throws that guy out of the plane, he goes, why didn't you just put the bunny back in the box? Like, the dialogue's terrible, but we enjoy the movie because it's stupid entertainment.
Yes. And there's a lot of minor references to it, but the major reoccurring reference is the end of Con Air, where Nick Cage shows up with his family's there, he's seeing for the first time forever, and he gives his daughter the bunny and then hugs them all tenderly with How Do I Live playing in the background.
Right, okay.
And
how do I live without you?
That's been redone every once in a while in the comic. They have to redo that scene again. At the end of Act 4, he gets the bunny and he finds 2 yellow salamanders that are the reptiles of his planet, and he has to reenact the whole scene with them. He renames the baby salamander Casey, and she became a major character. She's a wizard now with an undead army.
Well, naturally.
Naturally, yeah. And the whole comic is leading up to John falling in love with Rose's mom, because she's a blonde wife with a blonde child, and he has to give the bunny back to her, and they're going to do the whole scene eventually.
Which is more Con Air goodness.
Yeah, more Con Air goodness.
Oh, my God.
John's whole story arc is Con Air, everything.
What, did he go to prison for killing somebody? And
No,
the judge goes, I'm putting it for manslaughter because as a soldier of the American Army, your hands are lethal weapons.
Every time the bunny shows up, they have to put it in a box or take it out of a box.
Oh, I think you showed me, like, some YouTube video where they were putting the bunny in the box and the bunny out of the box. And now, we talked last episode about Andrew Hussey's Kickstarter and how successful it was and how he got enough money to start this journey. We know that you told me he spent a little of that money on something frivolous. What did he buy?
For $11,000.
$11,000
Shipped. 11,000 shipped.
Oh my God.
Shipped from London. He bought the actual bunny from Con Air. He owns the one from the comic.
From the movie.
From the movie.
That's featured in the comic.
Featured in the comic.
He owns it.
Yeah.
Like it's not at a Planet Hollywood somewhere in a case. It's at Andrew Hussey's house.
It's close enough because the hero bunny used in all the shots is probably in a museum somewhere. This is the one from the jail cell scene where it's still in the bag. It hasn't been opened out of the bag yet.
Okay, so he's got the one that's in the
package. He's got the bagged one, which is a better prop because it has more to it. But I guess it would have been better for him to actually hold the bunny. Hussey's never taken a picture of it again, so we assume he might have opened it.
It's not real. It's not a real toy. It's a prop.
It's a prop.
Why he would open it? What? Just so he can hold it?
So he can put it in boxes.
Oh my!
When he bought it,
$11,000 to play with it and put it in a box and take it out of a box.
When he bought it, he tweeted out with a picture of it saying, "I'm gonna go practice my box dunking skills."
Oh, jeez. That is frivolous, man.
John has a special ability called Chaos Dunk, where he puts the bunny in the box and it shoots out a ray of energy. John. Every character gets a weapon type. John uses hammer kind and bunny kind. The bunny's its own weapon he uses.
So the Con Air bunny has now been folded into the continuity of Homestuck, and it's a weapon.
Yes.
It's like a tesseract.
And then it evolved from the Con Air bunny. It got sent to his grandpa from an alternate universe, who is very skilled in nuclear physicists and robot stuff from watching movies and reading comics. So he turns the bunny into an android. So it's got robot parts and all these weapons and stuff. But Jake, his grandpa, isn't a fan of Con Air. He doesn't like Nick Cage. He likes weird, a little later movies. His favorite movie's Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's?
The bunny, which John had started calling Liv Tyler after the Armageddon actress, Jake changes the name to Terry Kaiser.
The guy who plays Bernie.
The guy who plays Bernie at Weekend at Bernie's.
So the guy whose most famous part is he's a walking corpse.
Yes. So Terry Kaiser, Liv Tyler, and the Con Air bunny are all in the comic as the same character.
You know that guy Terry Kaiser took that role as a lark, had no idea that it would become so successful and make a sequel, that he suffered huge back injuries from flopping around the whole movie and falling and being dead. That poor guy. That poor man.
Unfortunately, John's bunny was destroyed when they created reality. So it's a bummer.
It's not in there anymore.
They created the green sun, which is the power source for God, and it was destroyed in the explosion.
Okay, now, all right, so there's a lot of Homestuck minutia, and obviously we're not going to get to much more of it because we're at nearly 45 minutes at this point. But we haven't heard from Austin very much.
Oh.
I would like to ask you now, there was a point where Homestuck took a big break,
Yeah.
right? And Hussey was like, look, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to take a break. How long was the break?
It was about 1 year. Exactly 1 year. It was exactly 1 year.
So he took a year off from writing and doing the comic.
He called it the Gigapause. He said that he was going to take a while off, which turned out to be a year. We all thought it would be much shorter, but it was a year. And he said he was going to write the rest of Homestuck. He said Homestuck was done as a writing project, and he wanted to move on to something else. So he was going to write the last few hundred pages of Homestuck and upload them all at once on one day and in the comic once and for all. Now, that never happened.
But he did take the year off.
Yeah.
Now, in the year, you guys had to fill your time with something because he wasn't giving you the fix of the pages of the updates, right? There was nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
So what did you do during the gigapause of Hussey not doing Homestuck?
Well, one of the first things I did was I went around role-playing as the hiatus as a physical character.
Let me break that down. You role-played online, like some people role-play inanimate objects. Like if you go on Twitter, every object at Disneyland has a Twitter feed. The Eye of Mara, the Main Street Cigar Store Indian, the birds that say mine over at Finding Nemo, the seagulls. So everything has a Twitter. You decided you were going to be a physical representation of Andrew Hussey not doing anything.
Yeah.
The hiatus, the gigapause.
I started a Tumblr blog, and I also went on misspop.com, which is MSPA role-playing. You can choose any character you want, and it replicates the internet typing style when you type. So I went on both websites as the hiatus and basically just trolled people and messed with them. Because at this point, they were all so angry that the comic had been put in such a long hiatus. What would be worse than, like, the actual hiatus joining the chat and yelling at them?
So you would say, like, they would be like, wow, I can't believe that this hiatus is still going on. Hussey won't do any pages. And then you come on and you're like, that's right, he's not doing any pages. I am the hiatus.
Yep.
Pretty much.
But let it be known that I had a roleplay blog before that, and his is pretty much a joke on mine.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Mine's a
I
satire on
roleplayed the
his.
comic.
The comic.
Yes, the comic.
Like if the comic walked around.
If the Axe walked around.
The what?
Because we were
Oh,
at
the Axe.
Yeah, we were at
Okay.
the point in the comic where acts were only a couple weeks long, and he kept shifting between two sections. So I would play as those sections, going back and forth, yelling at each other, who gets to be next, who's the next update, who's going to be there, and it gets really complicated because they took a physical
wait.
form.
Now it gets
Yeah.
complicated.
Well,
like it wasn't complicated before.
My little roleplay blog last summer is now my own comic I've been making over a year now, so it gets complicated.
Needless to say. Now, I remember, Austin, you would come in and just be so happy that you would ruin people's day by literally becoming an internet troll, which is a character in the show, but you were actually the hiatus, the guy not doing anything.
Yeah.
So you were doing stuff based on the guy not doing stuff.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay, that actually made sense,
Yeah.
didn't it?
Yeah.
And what happened when did he decide to come back and do more pages?
He finally said, I'm going to do more pages. At the point where I've already ditched this blog for about 5 months now, because I just got tired of it. There was a point where the Gigapause was 6 months through. I'm like, I can't roleplay and mess with people anymore. He still roleplays his character, actually.
I still do my character because I have to. I've written in such a way that it has to respond to the comic. So every time the comic updates, I gotta do something.
Okay, all right.
But he finally did say, the news post, Giga unpause probably almost. Is that what it was
Giga
called?
almost unpause, probably.
Yeah. And this is the first time we'd ever heard from Hussey, because the only thing we've heard from in, like, the past 6 months was his wife sometimes, right? And that was
she would mess with us on the Reddit, and we got her so angry she won't talk to us anymore.
Yeah. She's pretty much left us. She even made a post saying that.
Yeah. I started Hussey Twitter, where I would screen cap Hussey's Twitter in case he said anything about the comic or news of when it's coming back. And it just got into all this drama of me getting into their privacy on their public Twitter page.
Right, but didn't he call you an ass clown?
No. His IPGD is one of Hussey's friends. They called me a clown lord for posting their stuff.
Not ass clown, it was clown lord.
Clown lord. I'm a clown lord.
This clown lord is retweeting all of our tweets.
Because I screen cap Hussey's horse jokes and put them on Tumblr.
So you're interacting with the guy and pissing him off, but that's what his bread and butter is interacting with you guys and pissing you off.
Yes.
So sorry, it's a taste of his own medicine. You're the pause and you're the actual comic.
Yes. He calls us all randos now. Everyone on Twitter who follows him who isn't a close friend is a rando. So,
but this is his own fault because he could email people. He doesn't have to be on Twitter.
He doesn't have to be on
Twitter.
Twitter.
There's nothing private about being on Twitter.
He could privatize his Twitter and only accept his friends. But
Sure he could.
But he has 80,000 followers.
Well, it's because he's got a product to sell. It's all part of the shtick.
He'll tweet his friends saying, at IPGD, here, have some more teens for the day. They all just got this notification.
Yeah, and the thing is, all of Hussey's friends are privatized, so you can't see any of his conversation except for him. He's the only one of his friends that isn't privatized.
That must be maddening. Just like, yeah, and then nothing, and then like, oh, I know, and then nothing.
It's even worse than that.
Yes.
It's like, what was, oh my God, I'll have to bring it up. He did one just last night that was like, oh, the fans are going to love that, or that guy's a real, I can't remember what it was.
Next episode. It's all right.
Shelby Cragg, I don't know why I say Craig. Shelby Cragg is a fan artist who Hussey is hired now, and she draws almost all the comic for him. She's privatized on Twitter, and he'll talk to her about plot spoilers, but since we only get to see half the conversation, he'll purposely write to her in a way that it's entertaining for us to only see half of it.
Well, that's the mark of a good showman. That's P.T. Barnum at its finest. Okay, we're going to wrap this up because we've been talking nearly an hour. We only got, I think, 3 or 4 things off of your massive list here.
We still haven't talked about Ryan North.
We haven't talked about Ryan North. We haven't talked about Bill Cosby or Charles Dutton or Octopimp or a million other things. But there's always another episode,
Whistles,
right?
Yeah.
The hours go by quick. They do.
Gigapause.com.
What is Gigapause.com?
It was a Homestuck Facebook-like social site. They started doing the Gigapause, so fans could talk and sort of had something to do.
And I bet that lasted a very short time.
It was
that
huge.
Sounds like a lot of work.
They still have they're still paying for the servers up, and almost no one's on it anymore. I never used my personal account. I had one roleplay account on it that I still use today, and I just mess with people.
That seems to be a common theme here, is messing with people.
Here I'm not the comic, and we're not the comic. I'm actually Andrew Hussey. I have his profile. I took his Twitter bio and his picture, and I troll them as Andrew Hussey.
So you really are a clown lord.
Yes. And some people believe me.
Yeah, they really do. They really
They'll
believe
reply back. I'll say some horse joke or some really insulting thing at them, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe Hussey commented on my post."
Oh, I believe it. There's a guy on Twitter that's Bill Murray. He has 80,000 followers, and his Twitter thing says, "I am not the real Bill Murray. I am just a guy. I am no way affiliated with Bill Murray." But people don't care. The last thing the average person wants is facts to ruin whatever it is they think they're into.
The red Taiwanese whale needs to make an appearance in the comic. That's all I'm saying, Hussey, if you're listening. Red Taiwanese whale.
All right, we're gonna end on that cryptic note, and you should write that down so you can explain it on the next episode. So, hey, we want to thank you for tuning in. We're gonna wrap up here. I am Jeff Tucker. I am accompanied by the Homestuck experts in my life. They are
Austin,
Luke,
and you can find them on on Reddit, on Tumblr. What other social media?
I'm become imp on almost everything. Steam, Tumblr, Twitter. Not Twitter. Reddit. One word.
Become imp. IMP.
And I'm Goont My Fries on almost every social website.
Goont My Fries, which is an Adventure Time reference. Why did you goont my fries? Right? Ice King?
Yeah.
Okay, you can find these guys on social media. You can also see them. I'll try to post some links on the Facebook page for 91 Reasons. I am Jeff Tucker. I am the voice you hear. We want to thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, go ahead and click the subscribe button because we'll be doing these Homestuck episodes periodically as the weeks go on. We'll also be at WonderCon in Anaheim next year and Comic-Con in the summer. We hit all the major conventions, Kamikaze, WonderCon, Comic-Con, Nuke the Fridge at Frankensons. We try to hit every kind of weird thing we can, so we'll let you know when we're going. So if you're listening and you want to say hi, you can say hi, or you can yell at Luke for pretending to be Andrew Hussey or Austin for pretending to be the hiatus, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. But hey, who knows? Whatever floats your boat, right? Here at 91 Reasons, we don't judge. We just put it on display for everyone to look. We're going to gather in close and say, leave us a review on iTunes, subscribe on iTunes, like us on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. I am at The Sixth Key, which is the title of my novel, which you can find on Amazon.com. The Sixth Key, The Infinite Backward, The Lost Station, all three available as a paperback or as a Kindle download for 99 cents. If you're a member of Amazon Prime, the download is free. It doesn't get better than that. You can get 10 years of my writing life for either free or under $3. It's the deal of the century. Have I plugged enough? I'm always plugging. Kristen Boaz says I'm always plugging. So I am always plugging. We thank you for listening. And the show you're listening to is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?